What's up guys, I hope you're all having a great day. Welcome back to the channel, where in today's video, we are going to be going over some exciting news regarding the future of Star Wars as it pertains to the sequel trilogy characters. Now, rather than prefacing my thoughts beforehand, I'm just going to get right into things here and read a quote to you guys from Kathleen Kennedy, which she recently delivered in an interview with Empire magazine, and then we'll get into what it could mean for us as fans afterwards. So in the interview, Kathleen Kennedy made the following statement regarding the main characters of the sequel trilogy. "Those are not characters we are going to forget. They will live on. And those are conversations that are going on with the creative team as well." So that's it, short, sweet, and to the point, but at the same time, this is actually a pretty revealing statement. The claim that they have no interest in leaving the sequel characters behind and that the creative team is discussing these characters' roles in future stories is a really big deal actually. It may not be a huge surprise for a lot of people, as many fans, including myself, have speculated for a long time that we would see these characters return, but it is certainly music to the ears of those of us who are hoping to see characters like Rey, Finn, and maybe even Ben Solo in the future. It's reassuring for us to know that these conversations are taking place. Now, obviously, we all know that The Rise of Skywalker was marketed as the end of the Skywalker saga, but we also know that nothing is set in stone. Many of us have been speculating for a long time that a fourth Star Wars trilogy centered around the Skywalker bloodline would be told at some point down the road, and we've even gotten some pretty big rumors which have suggested that this may become a reality sooner than anticipated. It is also certainly worth mentioning, however, that the return of these characters does not necessarily mean they will be shown on the big screen. It doesn't mean that these stories will be told in the form of a trilogy or even a movie. We could very easily see some more expansive spin-off stories told in the form of television series on Disney Plus instead. And we could also see both. We could see spin-off series and movies told on the big screen, and ideally in time, I think that's the best scenario. I think a future trilogy would see the emergence of a lot of new characters, with Rey and possibly Ben Solo being the prominent returning faces, and then we would see other characters like Poe, Rose, and Finn featured more extensively in the spin-offs. Not that they couldn't appear in the movies or that Rey couldn't appear in the shows, but if they did both, movies and TV shows, I think Rey and Ben are the obvious choices for the movie role, as they are the prominent Force users and also the dyad and also the only remaining Skywalkers, Ben of course by blood and Rey by proclamation. And that's all obviously assuming they brought Ben Solo back, which of course is not a guarantee. Again, all of those faces I mentioned could show up in a movie, and all of those faces I mentioned could show up in a show. I'm just talking in terms of prioritizing. Obviously, Rey and Ben Solo would be the prominent faces in a movie role, given who they are and what they mean to the overall story. I could also see Finn stepping into a similar role as Rey and Ben, depending on where they decided to go with that story. I still think his role would be smaller than theirs, but he could definitely play a significant role in a future trilogy. I think what makes the most sense is telling a story relatively soon after the sequel trilogy in which Rey is rebuilding the Jedi Order, because that's a story we have not ever seen before. It's something we've gotten hints of with Luke after Return of the Jedi, but we haven't gotten too much on that time period as it pertains specifically to Luke Skywalker and his new Jedi Order. So if they're looking to bring Rey back for future stories, then why not go in that direction? Then of course we would see a greater evil rise, something that Rey is unable to handle on her own, and they could potentially make this a very climactic and inclusive, wholesome story, maybe bringing in Hayden Christensen to play Anakin's Force Ghost, bringing Ahsoka and Grogu into the fold potentially, reviving Ben Solo, and so on and so forth. We've got into all this stuff before. I don't want to go too far into that again. I'd also still be open to going in a very different direction, where Rey turns to the dark side, because I think that's a fundamentally more interesting storyline, to be honest. But that's neither here nor there, really. It's definitely not something we need to see. I just thought I'd mention that as an aside. Anyways, though, I really just wanted to get on here and let you guys in on the news. Hopefully give a little ray of hope for those who needed it. I think even though this was a very brief statement, it is a very good sign for those of us who would like to see these characters return for future projects, whether they be in the form of movies or TV series. I am very hopeful about the future of Star Wars. I'm super excited about everything that we already know is coming up here in the next couple years, and if we do indeed get to see these guys come back and explore more about Rey's future and maybe Finn's past and the overall concept of the dyad and all of that kind of stuff, then I'll be even happier. And just as a quick little side note, you know, even if you're not a fan of this or you don't like the sequels at all, this is another opportunity for you to like them. So maybe try and take it as that. My advice to you would just be take the previous story for what it is, go in with an open mind, and give it a chance. Because at the end of the day, with whatever project they decide to do, whether we like it or not, I think we should try to always go in with an open mind, because if we don't, then you know, what's the point? But on that note, I am going to wrap this video up here, so comment your guys' thoughts down below. Let us know what you would be most excited about seeing in this potential post-sequel trilogy era, or maybe even in a pre-sequel era, regarding Finn or the rise of Kylo Ren or whatever else. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to drop a thumbs up to support the channel, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and of course, may the Force be with you always.